Raise your fists together. I am somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody.
Red and yellow, brown, black, and white. We're all precious in God's sight. Everybody is somebody. Stop the violence. Save the children. Stop bullying. Save the children.
Hold your head high. Stick your chest out. You can make it. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive.
Hi, I'm Dr. Sonia Whitaker, National Education Policy Director for Push for Excellence. And on behalf of the Rainbow Push Coalition, we'd like to thank you so much for giving of your gift of time and joining us here on our Saturday morning forum. We'd like to thank Word Network for bringing you to us and us to you. And yet we recognize that there are many of you that are watching us right now on Facebook Live. If you're doing so, we'd like to ask that you like our page. And for the many of you that are watching us now on YouTube Live, we'd like to ask that you subscribe to our page so that you may gain immediate access to all of the content that we have in store for you. And speaking of content, we can't do this without you. We need your financial support, and we've made it really easy for you to give. In fact, you may choose from one of 3 different options. You can simply pick up that cell phone of yours right now and hold it to the QR code and give right on the spot. And if you prefer, you can take that same cell phone of yours and simply text the word PUSH to 41444. Text PUSH to 41444. Or you can simply go to our website at rainbowpush.org and click on the donate button. Now, whatever you do, do not move, do not touch that dial, because we're going to be right back. The push is on.
Good day. My name is James Gomez. I'm the International Affairs Director for Rainbow Push Coalition. And on behalf of Reverend Jackson and the Rainbow Push family, we want to send our deepest condolences to the Mandela family for losing their beloved daughter, granddaughter, and mother, Zwelithini Mandela, who passed away early this week from cancer. She was a tireless advocate for cancer and also for road safety because she lost her daughter through an accident. And we want to join the Mandela family in celebrating her life and comfort them in prayers. Know that they're not alone, and we in the United States and the Rainbow family join them in celebrating her life. She is gone, but her advocacy work on cancer and road safety had made a difference in the lives of many in South Africa. And we pray that she will be joining her mother, Zinzi, who passed away a few years ago, her grandmother, Mrs. Mandela, and also her grandfather, Nelson Mandela. May their soul rest in eternal peace. Thank you.
Welcome to a spotlight on voting, voter engagement, voter empowerment, voter information. And I am so excited to have 2 gentlemen with me who are going to share some insights about 2024, what you need to know, why you need to vote, why you need to make sure that everyone who's 18 and older is engaged and voting. This is the most critical election in our lifetimes. I have Max Bever with me. He's the Director of Public Relations for the Chicago Board of Elections. And I have my dear friend who left me, abandoned us, Lance Goff, former Executive Director of the Chicago Board of Elections, now serving to help improve our understanding of the election process as usual and to tell us what we should vote for. So who wants to go first?
I'm happy. I appreciate the invite today, Doctor. We've got 2 important elections coming up next year. There's the March 19th presidential primary election. This is where voters are going to be nominating many elected officials to be elected then in November. November 5th is then the presidential general election. So we're getting everything ready for March 19th. It's only 5 months away. Sounds like we've got some time, but we are making sure that everyone is registered to vote because we've got nearly 1.7 million registered voters within this city. We don't seem to have too much of a registration problem anymore, but what we have is a voter turnout problem.
So we have 1.6 million, 7 million.
It's going to be 1.7 million soon, registered voters in the city of
So
Chicago.
there are 1.7 million of you who are registered to vote. How many voted in the last election last year?
Just over 613,000 in the April 4th municipal election, and that was high for a municipal election. That was a good turnout, but that's still only 38% of the city's voters turning out to actually vote.
So what offices are to be elected in 2024? Who are we voting for?
So the big one at the top of the ballot is the president, and that's usually what gets all of the attention. Well, it's really important, and the offices that affect more people's daily lives are what's under the president. And so we've got Illinois Supreme Court judge is going to be on the ballot in 2024. Our state senators, our state representatives, those are the elected officials that go to Springfield. They pass the laws that affect your daily life, along with the governor. We've got so many different judges. It is going to be a longer ballot, especially for March 19th, because you're also going to have ward committee people and all the presidential delegates.
So when you talk about judges, you have been working with this for a number of years.
Yes.
So let's just talk about the judicial elections. What levels are we going to be electing?
Well, you have a Supreme Court justice running.
Yeah, we have one vacancy.
One vacancy in the Supreme Court.
And it's an important vacancy because they only have 7 justices on the Illinois Supreme Court. And so now you have to fill one of those vacancies.
Correct.
Okay.
Then you also have appellate court judges running. And then you have your
Circuit Court.
Circuit Court. And then you have your sub-circuits. So it's going to be this primary ballot is a large ballot because you also have your delegates and alternate delegates.
Presidential delegates.
Presidents, yeah.
So what do the delegates do? The delegates, some people remember when Reverend Jackson ran 84 and 88, he had delegates that many of us were either regular delegates, alternate delegates, super delegates. What's a delegate?
Well, a delegate is elected to go to the convention of the party, and we have 4 different party ballots here in the city of Chicago that people will see on March 19th. That's Democratic, that's Republican, that's Green Party, and that's Libertarian.
So we'll have all those different people running for president and vice president, right?
So you'll have people that are associated with the person running for president. They need their delegates to go to the convention and then vote for them. So what they're really is nominating somebody to go nominate that person for president at their convention. As you might have heard, there is a big convention that will be in the city of Chicago this year.
Yeah, the Democratic Convention. They can't say that because they're nonpartisan, but I can say it. The Democratic Convention's in Chicago. The Republican Convention is somewhere in America. And then the other party conventions, I'm not sure where they are. But you will be able to run as a delegate for whatever party you favor in 2024, March 19th. And then there's a presidential convention in Chicago, the Democratic one. And so you'll see nominees and delegates that will be there voting for the candidate they believe should be elected, or at least be the candidate to run in November for president, right?
And those candidates are out there right now getting signatures.
Circulating petitions.
It's petition season in Chicago. So if you see somebody with a clipboard and they're asking you to sign somebody's petition, please don't run away in the other direction. They're not asking for money. They're just asking for your support for this candidate to be on the ballot. Not even for your support for that candidate, but just so they can be on the ballot so that they can
how many
be voted for.
signatures does it take for a person to run for Illinois Supreme Court or county board? Because let me tell you the positions. They are Illinois Supreme Court Justice, Illinois Appellate Court Justice, Circuit Court Judges, Sub-Circuit Court Judges, and then you have...
We also have congressmen. We also have
U.S.
state
congressmen,
senators.
state senators,
State representatives.
state representatives.
We've got Cook County commissioners that will be on the ballot
Cook
this time
County
around again,
Board
too.
of Commissioners.
You can look and see, it's a huge number of signatures.
Oh, my God.
For different offices. And you also have board committeemen in the city of Chicago. That's another set of signatures. So you have
You're going to see a lot of clipboards walking around.
But we do urge people to go to chicagoelections.gov if they have questions about the
Say that-
petition process.
say that again.
Chicagoelections.gov, G-O-V, that is our website for the Chicago Board of Elections. And you're going to look up what Lance just gave you is our 2024 election calendar. As he mentioned, there's different signature requirements for all different candidates, but all of them are starting to hit the streets right now, getting those signatures so that they can get onto the ballot. They get those filed, and then we get into our Chicago Electoral Board process, which is everything we have to take care of as we head into March 19th, this primary election.
So we're getting ready for March 19th. What do you need to do if you are a member of a church, social club, any organization? We want you to make sure that everyone in your organization who's eligible is registered to vote. Eligible is what?
So you have to be 18 years old, you have to be a citizen, and you have to live within 30 days at your residence. Although we are heading into a primary election. This is a special election where they allow 17-year-olds to vote as long as they're 18 by November 15th.
Okay.
So if you are 17 years old on March 19th, you can get yourself registered to vote, and you can vote on that election. And with same-day registration, there's really no excuse that you can even show up to your polling place on election day
So
as long as you are
17,
eligible.
so that means high school teachers, high school principals, you need to make sure that your students not only register, but they vote March 19th. Students should register now and vote then. And you know, you can make it a civic opportunity at your school.
But you know, Reverend, what we used to do, and you remember this, we used to say, everybody knows somebody. Get 10 of your friends,
Right.
and make sure they register and make sure they go and vote. That's the most important thing.
Tell 10, text 10, tweet 10 to register and vote March 19th. Register now, vote March 19th, 2024. You're voting for your, you know, if you want to change the criminal justice system, as an example, if you want to change the property taxes, this is the time to vote. You're voting for tax assessor, you're voting for clerk of the, are we voting for?
Cook County State's Attorney is
Cook
going
County
to be opening
State's
this year.
Attorney. That's a big deal. Who sits in the office that is now held by Attorney Kim Foxx? That's a critical position.
It is.
It really is. And you know, that person initiates criminal cases against juveniles, adults, for various things. You're going to be voting for state senators, state representatives. They pass laws like the no cash bail law. It comes out of your state legislative body. And so you want to make sure that you know your state senator, you know your state representative, you know your county commissioner. There are certain county things, county health, that the commissioners decide. Cook County assessor, right?
Yes.
Cook County assessor is going to be on the ballot. So you want to know who is the Cook County assessor? I bet you don't know, but that's something you should go to. What
Our website.
what's the website?
ChicagoElections.gov is our website. You can go see the offices that will be on the ballot. Soon you'll be able to get your sample ballot when we get closer to January and February. But Doctor, I'm so glad you brought up, you know, voter registration is a very important step, but it's only a first step into engaging with democracy. It's turnout. It's turnout. And while we're heading into a presidential year that generally sees higher turnout, closer to 70%, 80%, we might be facing, you know, a lot of problems with getting people fired up for 2024. There might be a rematch at the top of the ballot. We already just had 4 elections in a row. We know that people are feeling burnt out, but that really is no excuse not to do your own research, be prepared, and to vote in every single election. Because as you mentioned, those offices that are down the ballot, we might all know who the president is, but if you don't know who your Cook County representatives are, that has more of an effect on your daily life.
Every one of us has a sub-circuit judge that comes from the communities where we live. Every one of us has a county commissioner that covers our area where we live. Every one of us and they're going to be on the ballot, has somebody that's assessing our property taxes if you own property. You need to know who that person is so that you can communicate with them issues that you have with respect to property. Everybody knows they're judges. You're going to see a judge before you see any of these other people. You either go traffic court, divorce court, child support court, probate court. You're going to see a judge. I promise you. So what should you do? Invite the candidates to come and meet with your organization, interview them, talk to them, research them, so you know who you're voting for. Don't try to vote by names that you think look like you, sound like you. No, you need to talk to these people. You'd be surprised. Yes, sir.
And just to really say, in the city of Chicago, there's more opportunities to register and vote than any other place in the United States. We have over 15 days of early voting. Somebody can walk right in there and register to vote right there.
Same day?
Election day, same day registration. And so there's no excuse for somebody not to vote.
And I think most principals are deputy registrars.
They have a deputy registrar in almost every high school.
So students, parents, your child can register at school, be registered to vote for this March 19th election. Now, there's some jobs. Y'all told me there's some jobs.
We do. We appreciate the opportunity for us to tell that we are hiring at the Chicago Board of Elections. We're looking for part-time workers in our registration department, at our warehouse, our IT department, really all of our departments, and it's $17 an hour, no more than 30 hours a week, and we are hiring through all of 2024 for those positions. But we're already hiring up for our election judges, our election coordinators, and our early voting officials.
You need a job, you might want to work for the Board of Elections. That might help you help your friends vote. I know you need a job. It's how much an hour?
It's $17 an hour for these positions, including early voting official. But if you want to just work one day, and that's election day, either on March 19th or November 5th next year.
So where do they go if they want to work?
You can go to chicagoelections.gov.
Chicago, you gotta be able to spell that. Elections, all one word, .gov, right?
That's right. And then you'll find our sign up to be an election judge page. New election judges make up to $230 for election day. And if you're an election coordinator, somebody who's a little bit more tech savvy, who looks out for our precincts, you can make up to $450 for that day.
And then these other people, when do they start working? $17 an hour.
We could use people right now. So again, please go to our website, go to our job and contractors page, and find out. You'll have an online application. Should only take you about 5 minutes, and you'll hear back from us right away.
Well, that's exciting. They're going to come back and tell you more and more. Each month, we're going to be talking to the boards of elections, nationally and locally, because we want everyone to be registered and voting. Students, you can register and vote on the campus in the city of Chicago. If you're in school here, you can vote here in Chicago. Wherever you are in Illinois, you can vote wherever your campus is located in Illinois. You can just go vote, register as a resident on your campus in the address where your campus is, and you can register and vote in Chicago and Illinois elections this 2024. Get ready.
People often ask, why should I vote? And to be honest, voting is a sacred right. And if it wasn't so important, then there would not have been a distinctive effort to minimize one's vote. So while the 2024 election may seem far away, it really is right around the corner. So I want to encourage you to start thinking to yourself, do I have my voter plan together? Do I know where my polling location is? Do I know who's gonna be on the ballot this election? And don't just ask this question of yourselves, but I wanna encourage you to talk to your family and friends about this as well. Because here's the thing, voting is the one way in which you can actively participate in bringing about the change that you want to see. But to be completely honest with you, voting alone is not enough. It is so important that those of us who can and are willing to do so, that we put forth the effort to assist those in our community who might have challenges at the polls. So if you are interested in assisting others, then I would like to encourage you to participate in election protection. There are so many components to the election protection program. We have a hotline of volunteers who answer questions for those who call in, but we also have an election protection program where we have poll monitors and we have poll watchers. And this is where you can actively participate in your community and be at the polls to assist voters and to monitor what's going on at all times. If this is something that you are interested in, please reach out to us at Common Cause Illinois, where we would love to talk to you more about the program that we have. As I mentioned, it seems like the primaries are far away, but they are just around the corner. So make sure that you're prepared and that you have everything together for you to be able to vote. And the very first step that you need to take to do that is make sure that you're registered. But please be an active participant in this upcoming election, and don't just stop at voting. Try to find some of the various ways that you can get involved, whether it's election protection or other programs that might be out there. And if you yourself are a voter who runs into issues at the polls, then please be sure that around election time and during early voting that you reach out to the hotline 866-OUR-VOTE, and someone will be there to assist you.
Senator Feinstein dedicated her life to public service, leaving an unforgettable mark on the nation she tirelessly served. Throughout her distinguished career, she demonstrated unwavering commitment to the people of California and the United States, advocating for critical issues such as gun control.
The time has come, America, to step up and ban these weapons.
Environmental protection and women's rights. With her renowned intellect, strategic leadership, and unwavering integrity, Senator Feinstein was a steadfast voice of reason and a champion for justice. Her tireless efforts and legislative accomplishments will continue to shape the landscape of our nation for generations to come. Senator Feinstein's legacy will be remembered as one of compassion, resilience, and unwavering dedication to the betterment of society. Dianne Feinstein has been a vocal advocate for women's rights, health and social welfare, justice appointments, early support for LGBTQ+ rights, marriage equality. She co-sponsored the Equality Act. She also co-sponsored the repeal for Don't Ask, Don't Tell policy. Throughout her tenure, Feinstein has consistently used her platform to champion and promote equality and inclusivity. She will be greatly missed, and her contributions will forever be cherished. Our thoughts and prayers go out to her family, loved ones, and the countless individuals whose lives she touched throughout her remarkable career. Rest in peace, Senator Feinstein.
When I think of Rainbow Push, I think of two words: social justice.
Education advocacy.
Political empowerment.
Freedom and equality.
Global humanitarian.
Evolutionary, revolutionary.
Political change.
Inclusion, evolution. Push Excel.
Progress, justice.
Jesse Jackson.
Left for disciplines. Equality and perseverance.
Corporate partnership.
People united.
Push yes.
I'm Otis Moss III.
I'm Frederick Douglass Haynes III.
And we are here simply just to say to you about an incredible organization known as Operation Push.
Can I be admitted?
No, sir, you cannot be admitted.
Why?
I am not going to serve here.
Because of my race?
Operation Push has been here for us even when we didn't know it. As a matter of fact, a lot of the doors that you walk through is because of the fact that somebody knocked those doors down.
I am somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody.
And because of Operation Push, when it started as Operation Breadbasket, after the assassination of Dr. King, they decided to build an organization that were people united to save humanity.
Just what is Operation Push?
Well, Operation Push is a civil economics organization.
It's a religious organization with an economic mission. And we believe that the black church is the political and spiritual salvation of our people. And it is to that extent that we challenge churches and churchmen to get involved.
And so we are simply asking those who have been blessed by PUSH to join the movement.
That's right. And if you do that, I promise you, you are blessing the next generation. And that's what we need, generationally, to bless those who come behind us, just as those before us made sure that we could have what we have. That's Operation PUSH, pushing doors open. But we can't push if we don't have your hand involved.
We want to turn on the gas. We want to turn on the water. We want to sell the clothes. We want to sell the cars. We want to be men. We want self-determination.
And it was Jesse Jackson who was the young man of the movement and now is an elder statesman. And we've got to make sure that we have another generation that will be pushing forward, another generation that will be building an Operation Breadbasket, another generation that will be talking about new economic strategies for those who are poor.
And ensuring that we are never politically disenfranchised. I hope you already recognize that there is a movement afoot to rob us of what we fought so hard for and shed blood for, and that is the right to express our voice through voting.
If blacks vote in great numbers, progressive whites win. It's the only way progressive whites win. If blacks vote in great numbers, Hispanics win. When blacks, Hispanics, and progressive whites vote, women win. When women win, children win. When women and children win, workers win. We must all come up together. We must come up together.
We need you in Rainbow PUSH to make sure we are politically empowered and enfranchised.
There is no other organization like Rainbow PUSH, and we encourage you to make sure that you join and financially support. If we don't support it, no other organization will. It is our duty, it is our job to support our organizations.
We got to do it. Grassroots organization, hitting the streets and challenging those in the suites. That's Operation PUSH.
I like that. I'm Reverend Otis Moss III.
Hey, I'm Frederick D. Haynes III. He's rubbing off on me.
Make sure you join Operation PUSH, Rainbow PUSH, today.
Keep hope alive. Welcome, Rainbow PUSH family. I'm so excited I can't even hide it, because today we are talking with a prophetic genius, professor extraordinaire, preacher prophet of the highest order, an author of some 30 books, and I'm probably undercounting. We already know him. Unless your head has been in the sand, in justice circles, he is widely applauded, acknowledged, and appreciated as one of the greatest minds walking the planet today. And so I want to welcome Reverend Dr. Michael Eric Dyson to the Saturday Morning Forum Dr. King's Workshop. I know Martin King is smiling from eternity that we have today the Michael Eric Dyson. Dr. Dyson, welcome to the Saturday Morning Forum Dr. King's Workshop, Rainbow PUSH.
Well, Dr. Haynes, what an honor it is to be here with you today, following in the magnetic and prophetic footsteps of the great Jesse Louis Jackson. And now we have Frederick Douglass Haynes III, himself an extraordinary genius and a man who's able to bring oratory and prophetic intervention in behalf of the vulnerable to bear. So I'm just happy to be on air with you, Doc.
Wow. I just listen to him talk all day. But we have something to discuss. And Dr. Dyson, I'm really excited that you have agreed to have this conversation with me, because this past Tuesday, in your beloved home state of Michigan, something historic took place. The President of the United States, a sitting president, Joseph Biden, went to a site, a former munition site that some 80 years prior had been a place where weaponry was developed for the ongoing World War II. And now a war has been declared against what? Corporate greed. And so President Biden, when he went to Michigan, here's what blew my mind, Dr. Dyson. He was not dressed in a suit and tie. but instead had on his labor attire, his workers' attire, and he stood with striking auto workers in the state of Michigan in their fight against corporate greed. Dr. Dyson, that blew my mind. Of course, I think it's appropriate that we're having this conversation. Our beloved founder, that great prophet, Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr., has a long track record of standing with workers. You don't have Operation Breadbasket and the birth of PUSH without Reverend Jackson, when it was unpopular, taking a stand for workers having a living wage. Of course, we can go back even before that. You don't have the civil rights movement. Our drum major for justice, Martin Luther King Jr., partnering with labor. Of course, the March on Washington was called, and you know this better than I do, the March for Jobs and Freedom. And Dr. King even died standing with striking sanitation workers there in Memphis, Tennessee, believing that it's necessary that our workers have a living wage. And so, given this history, how significant was it? And here it is, Dr. Dyson, you are from the state of Michigan. You from Detroit. You have a history. You know the history. You grew up in the auto industry climate. So talk to us about what you felt and about the importance of a sitting president of the United States standing for living wages, declaring war against economic injustice. Talk to us about how you felt and interpret for us the importance of the president taking such a stand.
Well, you've so brilliantly articulated it and set it up. All I have to do is knock that one out the park. First of all, Dr. King, was engaged with Bayard Rustin, who had been himself involved in labor connected to A. Philip Randolph. So the pedigree of prophetic intervention in behalf of working people, the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters with A. Philip Randolph and the like. And so, and joining arms with Walter Reuther in that very March on Washington in 1963, and in Detroit before that, in June of 1963, when Walter Reuther, the head of the United Auto Workers, was there in full force. And I must say, as a point of personal privilege, my father was a member of the UAW, and I was a member of the UAW when I worked at my father's alma mater, Kelsey Hayes Wheelbrake and Drum Factory. Now, having said all that, it is extraordinary that a sitting president, now I don't want to hear all them jokes they're going to say, well, he's 80 years old, he can't do nothing but sit. No, the sitting president, a sitting president of the United States of America, not when he's done, not when he's on the campaign trail, but as president of the United States of America, proving that the bully pulpit is portable, bringing the full force of his global visibility to bear upon the interests of working class people, of laboring people. It is extraordinary. It is true that when he was part of the Obama and Biden administration, that Obama bailed, Chrysler out, bailed what was then called Chrysler, bailed the automobile industry out. There's no doubt about that. But this is taking it another step insofar as the symbolic politics of solidarity with those unionized people. And unions have become dirty words, right? In an American society where the right wing has vilified and demonized and stigmatized anybody who wants to organize for the right to work and the ability to derive a fair wage for the labor that they deploy and expend. So I'll tell you, Dr. Haynes, it was extraordinary to see this president who doesn't get his due. Joe Biden is constantly minimized, marginalized, and underappreciated, even among African-American communities. And I think that voters would be wise to appreciate his extraordinary contribution. Now, I said even among, I should say, younger African-American voters, because older Black people like myself and others have appreciated Joe Biden despite the complications, the complexities, the paradoxes, and the nuances that any political figure would bear. So I think it was extraordinary. It's to be applauded. And I think it puts the muscle of the American government behind workers who deserve to be treated with decency and respect.
Thank you. Thank you. Brilliantly put. Now, you made a statement that I can't move away from because it's so important in terms of how the president has been marginalized, underappreciated, even in certain segments of the African-American community. Right. And unions, of course, being the dirty word. So my question now has to do with the fact that how important, what statement does it make for those who say, ain't doing nothing for Black people? How does this play out? How important is it to the Black community that the president has taken such a stand with union? Talk to us about, and you alluded to it earlier, the relationship with unions, living wages, and the Black community.
Great question, great point. There's no doubt that Joe Biden standing with the unions is standing with a large number of Black people. Historically, we were precluded participation in these unions. They were deeply and profoundly racist. Right. They denied opportunities, pipe fitting unions, plumbers, automobile workers, skilled laborers, who, though they didn't have high education, got high wages. This is at a time before there was a shift from manufacturing to service industries in America, where the manufacturing base meant that even though you didn't have high education, you could use the sweat of your brow and the brawn of your muscle to be able to use an escalator into the middle class by means of unionized work, of labor that was highly waged and not necessarily highly skilled across the board, though there were tremendous skills and craftsmen and women involved there. So there's no question that the unions, now opening their doors to African-American people, have become staunch allies of African-American interests. And Black people are in these unions. The attack on the public sphere that Republicans constantly make is an attack on African-American people because we were historically denied access to private capital and industry in America. So what do? We got government jobs. So every time you hear these right-wing bullies trying to beat up on, oh, the government is too swollen, it's too big, that's because we got jobs in the public sphere and in the government arena that were disallowed us in the private sphere. So the attack on the public is always an implicit attack on Black people, and attacks on unions now are increasingly attacks on unionized Latinos, African-American people, and racialized minorities. Again, and of course, the working white class and the like. So for Joe Biden to see the possibility of unifying, because that's one of his great themes about bringing unity to the country, unifying the working base of America by supporting the unions, it is an extraordinary nod to not only his political insight, but also to his very deep roots in working class America.
Right. So Doc, do you not find it ironic, and I'd love to get your response to this, that it was only a couple of years ago, at the height of the pandemic, we were calling workers essential, those on the front lines protecting us. And now we have strikes going on literally across this country. Our beloved Reverend Jackson stood with striking hospital workers only a few days ago and was instrumental in settling that strike. But you have the writers who just recently came to a deal, and how grateful we are for that. But we still have actors who are striking. We have strikes going on across the country where there are those who are fighting for a living wage. Is it not ironic, profoundly ironic, that during a pandemic, they were seen as essential, but they're being treated by way of how they're being paid as expendable, even disposable? What should we be doing to stand with striking workers across this country? And what message is this country sending when it does not stand with workers?
Well, I fear I should be interviewing you, sir, because you are the one who went out to Hollywood and stood with the WGA and the Writers Guild of America, delivering a prophetic, resonant, euphonious rebuke to an American government that was grossly insensitive and calculatedly indifferent to the interests of that group. And these are relatively skilled unionized folk in terms of their writing abilities. What about these people who have other kinds of skills that are equally necessary, even more so, more compelling in many ways? And you're absolutely right. They were seen as essential when the prism through which we refracted the light of our self-interest meant that they were helping us. They were bringing us medicines. They were bringing us food from Instacart. They were bringing us food from various and assorted outfits that permitted us to stay at home, to be safe, while they risked their lives to deliver that food to us. So now they were, as you said brilliantly, they were seen as essential. Now they're seen as inessential, disposable. They're an option, not a necessity. And so what we have to do is to remind ourselves that these are the backbones and the bulwarks and the benchmarks of American society. Without their work, was it not Dr. King who said, yeah, I can fly, but what about the ground crew? What about the people down there making sure that we get the signals right and not mixed up and don't have horrendous accidents? So the ground crew, if you will, is what these people are. And the inability to recognize their worth and value when it doesn't benefit us directly, even though indirectly it certainly does, but when it was an immediate benefit, an immediate advantage, we exploited them by trying to celebrate them. It's like when we celebrate returning, war veterans. Right. But then with their homeless out here, ain't got no health insurance. We pass over them every day, look at them as if they are crazy people, because we don't have a deep appreciation that we celebrate when it benefits us, wearing an American flag, wearing an American label, a lapel pin about a flag, boasting about our July 4th credentials and bona fides, when we allow the very people whose blood was shed to protect us to seep into a ground of amnesia and indifference. So yes, sir, what we should be doing is to stand with them, which is what the President of the United States did. I'll take an 80-year-old white man who seems to be feeble in the eyes of others against these feeble-minded, half his age politicians who are so self-deluded, narcissistic, and preoccupied with trying to subvert the true process of American democracy. Let that 80-year-old man continue to be a kind of political Methuselah who will invigorate the debate and dialogue about American democracy for a few years to come.
Woo, Michael Eric Dyson. The doors of the church are open. Let's just put it this way. The ground crew allows us to take off. That's Michael Eric Dyson. If we're going to take off as a country, reach our destination, we better take care of the ground crew. Michael Eric Dyson, professor, Vanderbilt University, professor extraordinaire, writer extraordinaire. Got some more books coming out. I feel them books coming out of him. So we're looking forward to that. Dr. Dyson, thank you so much for being you and for blessing us with your brilliance.
Dr. Haynes, thank you once again. And once again, my friend, congratulations on your rightful and just elevation to this extraordinary perch from which you will prophetically platform the prerogatives of the kingdom. And we love you and we celebrate you and we appreciate you.
Love you, bro. Thank you so much.
Push Excel's goal is to inspire students to strive for excellence in education in spite of personal, family, and community challenges that they might experience. How do we do this? By advocating for educational policies that guarantee equal funding for all students without regard to race or economic standing. By engaging parents, students, and teachers in pursuing high-quality education and striving for educational excellence at every level. And by forging partnerships with community-based and public sector stakeholders in education. Now, Push Excel is a national model program with the purpose of connecting principals, parents, popular personalities, and students in a bond and to support students at every level on the educational ladder. Now, we want you to become a member of the Rainbow Push Coalition and Push Excel. Your annual membership can help us to change policies that impact students, colleges, and universities all around the country. So step up and sign up today. Membership is only $35, and if you're a student or a senior, $15. Just go to our website, rainbowpush.org, and push join to become a member, or push donate to support the Push Excel program. You can also text the word Push Excel, that's PUSHEXCEL, to 41444 on your cell phone, and you can give us any amount that you feel comfortable giving, or call us at 773-256-2775. Wherever you are, you can support us as we keep pushing for you. And remember to keep hope alive.
My name is Dr. Josh Barron. I am the superintendent in District 218. The communities that we serve, I want to make sure I don't miss any of them: Oak Lawn, Marionette Park, Blue Island, Calumet Park, Robbins, Alsip, Crestwood, Palos Heights, and Worth and Chicago Ridge. And District 130, which is our partner, one of our partner schools, 100% of those kids come to us. We are a high school district, but we have many partner schools that we work with through a K-12 lens. And like I had mentioned earlier, we're on the cusp of the city of Chicago. So we do have, transient population, a lot of Chicago's kids that will come into our district as well.
Serve all of those high school districts. And
No, we're just a high school. Yes, we're just a high school district, but we have a ton of partner schools that we work with and articulate with on a regular basis.
And so what are some of the challenges you're facing this year, 2 years after COVID, so to speak? What challenges are you now facing in your school district?
There are a lot of challenges we're facing. Poor academic performance, kids are behind, teacher shortage, safety issues, mental health issues are through the roof. Transportation with buses continue to be a problem. Hiring is a great challenge. Volunteerism is a great challenge. Attendance, getting kids back in school from the pandemic has been a great challenge. I'm not alone. This is a nationwide problem, of course.
So let's focus on just the teacher shortage. How is that across your district?
We're fortunate that we have applicants on a regular basis, but we're seeing less and less. We are definitely seeing more and more issues with especially hiring people of color. While I believe we have done a better job in recent years, it's not enough, and we continue to look at different avenues, different opportunities, whether it's working with historically Black colleges. We're doing a Grow Your Own program. We also are working with Chicago State and kind of looking at an Evanston model. Mm-hmm. Our biggest issue in talking to people of color, whether it's our students or our current employees that might be teacher assistants or security guards that should be working with kids, it's a financial issue. And look, here's the reality right now, especially in Illinois. There are kids that are going to college right now taking out $100,000, $200,000 loans. In most school districts, their first year salary is $55,000 on average, might be up or down. And then they have to work till they're 67 years old with tier 2 pension system. So we are calling colleges and finding that kids aren't even enrolled in programs. You used to be able to call, say, an Illinois state in the state of Illinois and say, we're looking for a Spanish teacher. Mm-hmm. And they'd say there's 20 kids in a program. We're calling down there, might be 1 or 2.
Wow.
So you're seeing the young generation, they're not going into education to teach. And, I know the business world is much more appealing. Heck, we're seeing teachers leave to go into the trucking industry or going to drive for Amazon because they can make $100,000. So and again, it's not easy working with kids. I've been doing this for 26 years. The challenges are greater than they've ever been. You know, teen violence is through the roof, which we're seeing, especially I'm seeing it at football games, just most recently. You know, Friday Night Lights is could be a thing of the past based on what's going on with shootings at games recently in the Chicagoland area and in the suburbs. So great challenges in education. I know we can do better, and we're going to keep fighting the fight. But we need to help people see that education is a great place to be. And we need to help, especially people of color, being that 2% of the country, based on the research I found, are African-American males in front of kids. So it continues to be a problem, and we need help. And, you know, I've definitely tried to reach out to some of our alumni. We have a foundation, you know, whether it's Dwayne Wade's a graduate of our district. I've tried to get in contact with him to see if there's any funds that could be put into our foundation for our kids or our students of our employees of color that want to go in education, which I know they are, but they're in debt or they can't afford to go back to school. So are there things that we can do? And that's why, you know, I'm here today to see if we can do something collectively to increase those issues with teacher shortage to get more people of color in the classrooms.
What percentage of your district do you have a shortage of teachers, and what's the percentage of the shortage? 50%, 40%, 30%?
I think it varies year to year. I wouldn't say I have an exact percentage. I think the fields right now that are a major issue of career tech ed, math and science are a struggle. We're seeing it with EL, English language learners, EL programs. We're seeing shortages in those areas are hard to find. We have a growing population, Hispanic population and Arabic population. And to try and find someone that speaks the native language can be a great challenge. But the percentages vary each year. It depends on what the retirement is or the needs and the enrollment. You know, we're very fortunate. Our enrollment stayed pretty steady. And because we're on the cusp of Chicago, we are seeing a lot more kids moving from Chicago to our district. Very transient population.
Well, you said that now you have a teacher shortage, but you also said that you have a problem with students returning to school and meeting standards. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, our kids definitely academically we come in at low reading and math levels, and it's our opportunity to grow them. And when we did research looking at apples to apples based on our demographics, us in the school in Moline are do it the best compared to apples. However, our test scores are still low. Our SAT scores can be better. I am proud that we had 7 kids last year either go to an Ivy League school or a high academic school in people of color. We had an African-American girl last year who was going to Harvard. So we are doing great things here. However, the challenges are greater. The kids are coming further and further behind. In standardized testing, you know, and I'll say right now, I don't think those questions are always equitable, especially with our students of color. I feel like those tests could be a little bit more ethnocentric. So do I put weight on the SAT? Sure I do, because that's the measure to go into colleges. But as you are seeing, more and more colleges are putting test optional, which I think is good, because I don't think every kid should be measured by a test score. Right. Something we have really done, and I'm proud of, is we partner with Equal Opportunity Schools, which is an equity movement to erase the barriers of students of color to get in advanced placement classes through the College Board. And our numbers have skyrocketed. And our 3, 4s, and 5s on those AP exams have increased immensely. So we've done a lot of work in that area. We also have done an equity audit. We partnered a couple of years ago with B. Young and Associates to look at where some of the issues are that we can address in the history of our district to make those improvements. And one of them, which is why I'm here today, is hiring more people of color. That's a big thing for us. So those are some of our struggles and things that we're working towards.
If you have educators, college professors watching you all around the country, what would you say to them? What can they do to help you?
I would say that this is the greatest profession, education. Talk about saving lives. I'm an example of that story. My story is why it drove me to go in education. My mother had me at 18 years old, no father, grew up in apartments. I was an apartment kid in the city of Chicago. And it was teachers and coaches that helped me stay out of trouble and get where I'm at today. And I consider it a miracle that I have a doctorate degree and I'm a school superintendent. Never thought that would happen. So the story of education is really important to this country. It's the fabric and foundation of our country, education. And it saddens me to see that our young generation, they're not going into the field. And it may not happen by the time I retire, but there's going to be a crisis. And I think we have to do something now to incentivize and get younger generations excited about going into this profession. It's the greatest profession. And I would say, we need to change these pipelines, and the pipelines and the systems are broke. And especially for people of color, we need to get more and more people, brown and black people, into the pipeline to educate our kids. And that is something we believe in here in District 218. We do the work. We do have an equity director. We do go out and recruit as best we can. But I know it's beyond us. It has to start with colleges. There has to be more opportunity for tuition reimbursement, or free tuition for that matter, for people to go in the field of education. And I'm calling out our politicians and our professors and universities. How can we do a better job and collaborate more with our districts post-secondary? It's a crisis, and especially in the fields of math and science and career tech education. We're part of Moraine Valley Cooperative. That's our junior college we work with, and we're having conversations right now about resources and getting teachers in front of kids that are skilled to teach some of these programs, whether it's cutting hair, cosmetology, welding, whatever it might be, engineering. We need to get people in front of our kids teaching those skills for our country to thrive. I believe that.
I thank you for sharing some of these conversations with you. Push Excel wants to partner with your school district to really help you move the needle forward. We have some tech people that perhaps can help with the STEM programs that want at your schools, their degree, and maybe figure out how to make it happen. One of the things, I used to sub 100 years ago in the south suburbs, and what they did was they had science teacher. They wanted me to be the science teacher for the district. And so I think collaborating with your schools, collaboration with your schools, and where you move the people around may be helpful, especially in science, math, and technology, because you have a greater shortage there. And so you can pool people to do masters.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about, potentially regional spaces. Might be the better way to go, because a lot of the school districts around us are trying to do it in-house. And here's the other reality that's happening in education. We're stealing from each other. We're trying to keep our teachers, and especially our teachers of color, and they're being recruited and they're getting paid more, maybe in this district or this suburb or whatever it is. I just had a Purdue engineer, and I knew it was going to be impossible to keep this kid. And we built a beautiful facility for engineering concepts, and he left. So I have this beautiful facility, and luckily we were able to find someone last minute. But we built this program, obviously around the kids, and what this teacher was able to offer kids, and up and left for a better job with more money.
So two things I can think of that we need to do is partner with corporate America. They have the trained people in science, math, and technology. And they're at the cutting edge in the industry. Many teachers, even though they could teach the science and math, they're not as current because they're not preparing. In many instances, not prepared to prepare students for the workforce of the present and the future. And so we're going to convene some meetings with you and other superintendents who have similar problems
Yes.
with corporate America. We have to urge them to help to invest in our children so that they are prepared to compete globally. Because
yes, I mean, we are going to be behind as a country if we don't do something about this. I think sometimes the leaders of this country have to sleep at the wheel and not seeing the great need that is in the field of education. We're paying attention to the wrong things. And we have to do something about this, and we have to do something about it now before it's too late.
Second thing, we have to work together. We have a major election next year. Education has to be on the lips of every candidate for office, particularly office of president, vice president, all the way down ballot. State senators, county commissioners. They have to have this education agenda that you're talking about. They have to pay teachers more, or at least equal to what they pay janitors or engineers in school buildings. Teachers make the least of all of the people, and we expect them to prepare people to be president, to be engineers,
and work till 67.
Work till 67.
To get the pension in Illinois, and you know it's a problem.
Yeah, teachers produce the judges that we appear before, and yet they make less than a sitting judge, and they have.
I hear a teacher saying, "I'm leaving for $100,000 truck driving job."
That's sad.
That's a problem.
Will you come back and join with other people as we wrestle with this issue?
100%. I'll be on any committee. I'll go to Washington, D.C., whatever it takes.
Okay, well, we thank you so much for joining us this Saturday.
We're excited to get more people involved in Rainbow Push, supporting the programs of Push for Excellence and the Citizenship Education Fund. If you're interested in impacting public policies, if you believe in the scholarships that we give to thousands of students each and every year, you can become a policymaker by becoming a member of Rainbow Push right now. For an annual membership of $35, or if you're a student or senior, $15, you can help us make a difference in the lives of millions. How do you become a member? Visit our website at rainbowpush.org and press join. Or maybe you'd like to support us. You can text the word PUSH, that's PUSH, to 41444 on your cell phone, and you can give any amount you feel comfortable giving. You can also call us at 773-256-2775, or go to rainbowpush.org and push donate. Wherever you are, you can support us as we keep pushing for you.
Rainbow Push family, as we continue our Saturday morning forum, Dr. King's workshop. I know Dr. King is shouting in eternity. Michael Eric Dyson blessing us. And now I'm too excited to present to all of us. If you have not met her before or heard of her, this is the pastor of social justice at Friendship West Baptist Church in Dallas. Friendship West, through the years, has been known for our justice activism and leadership. And even though the pastor of the church gets so much credit for it, I've got to be real with you. We have a pastor of social justice who is out there on the front lines doing the work. And so, Pastor Danielle Ayers, thank you so much for joining us for this conversation as we discuss voter suppression that is going on in this nation. And Texas seems to be determined to be at the forefront of doing all they can to ensure that everybody doesn't get the right to vote. Thank you for joining us, Pastor Ayers.
Thank you, Dr. Haynes. I'm super excited to be here, and thank you so much for that kind introduction. I certainly have been blessed and fortunate enough to serve as the pastor of justice at Friendship West under your leadership. So it is an honor to be with you, even on this elevated platform. So I'm super excited to be in this space with you today.
We're honored to have you. Thank you. As you well know, 2 years ago, We engaged in a protracted fight in Texas. The governor of the state put forward bills that were labeled, you talk about gaslighting, voter integrity bills, ha, ha, ha. Of course, we all know that the voter integrity bills were in essence voter suppression bills. To quote our senator, the Reverend Dr. Senator Raphael Warnock, we live in a country where some people don't want some people to vote. And that came to pass. Texas, and I say this to our Rainbow Push family, is not a red state. It is a voter suppressed state. Texas is a state where we have more African Americans than any state in the country. And yet that's not reflected when you look at the makeup of the state legislative bodies, because again, in the name of quote unquote voter integrity, ha, 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 we have voter suppression bills. One bill that was passed was Senate Bill 1 in 2021. And Pastor Ayers, you were on the front lines standing against the passage of Senate Bill 1. You testified against Senate Bill 1. You were a part of marches both in Austin and DC as we stood against Senate Bill 1. And of course, you, along with others, have joined in a lawsuit against the state of Texas. And this week, you'll be testifying in San Antonio against Senate Bill 1. And so please share with us about Senate Bill 1, why it is so dangerous, and whatever else you feel we need to know about Senate Bill 1.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And I thank you for even, bringing to the attention that we're not a red state, that we are a voter suppressed state, right? And I think that Texas is just in a long line of Republican controlled states that are seeking to really hold on to power by any means necessary. So to your point, this election overhaul they say we needed because of unfounded claims of voter fraud that were not there, right? It is, as we often say, they were looking to solve a problem that didn't exist. And so the problem we have in Texas, they know that the demographic makeup, the population growth, the demographic changes are not in their favor. And right. So Senate Bill 1 really seeks to really restrict voter rights here in Texas. And that is why, yes, we joined this lawsuit with many others. There are several plaintiffs in this lawsuit, as you mentioned, that is currently going on now. And we look forward to giving testimony to continue to do what we can to stand against the Senate Bill 1, which has so much in it. And it really took aim at Harris County, right? Which is where we know Houston sits in Harris County, because it took away the 24-hour drive-through voting. And who uses that more than anybody else? That's going to be Black folks and people of color, those who, have certain difficult work schedules where they may not be able to come during the day. They also, sought to, in those counties, to offer to change up the early voting timeframes. That also, restricts the ways in which people can show up to exercise their right to vote. And it also blocks, right, this sending out unsolicited mail-in applications, the mail-in ballots, which for the most part, those will be those who are 65 and over, or those who qualify automatically by mail anyway. So there's really no need to even put that in the bill. But why would they put that in the bill? Because primarily, once again, it is a way to restrict folks from being able to have access to, or maybe some of our folks, right, who may not remember to request their mail-in ballot. And this is a way of reminding them, hey, you are able to vote, you're eligible to vote, so make sure you request your mail-in ballot. There's no fraud there with giving people the ballot. What's the fraud in offering up a ballot? So that's another provision in SB 1 that also we feel is restrictive and suppressive. And then the whole voter ID, right, is this whole, these voter ID restrictions and requirements that we think adds a further burden. And we saw that in the very next election, where so many ballots were thrown out, right, that had to be reviewed, because they were throwing it out because of this ID on the front didn't match the ID in the inside. If the ballot didn't match the envelope, it was thrown out. It was unprecedented number of mail-in ballots that were not counted. So it's clearly, part of that provision of that law, which is very detrimental to primarily people of color and Black folks who vote here in the state of Texas. And another thing we were concerned about, right, what this bill does is give added power to partisan poll watchers. And so what does that mean if you don't live in like a Dallas-Fort Worth area and you are a Black person, a person of color in parts of Texas where you may be the minority? It may not be many of you. Does that intimidate you? Do you feel afraid to go to the polls to vote in a free and fair election that they claim they're trying to create? So that was also a big concern of ours, are the poll watchers. Was another big concern. And so it also, right, it limits the ability of people with disabilities in terms of people were nervous to say, well, how many people can I take the vote? How can I assist them? If I say this, will I then have some type of criminal penalty because the poll watcher says what they thought they heard, what they thought they saw? So that was another issue, right, with having poll watchers and then having these restrictions on who can escort whom to the ballot, et cetera. So that was very much a problem that we have. We still have a problem with SB1 as it relates to access to the ballot with people with disabilities and language barriers, right? That's another issue that came up because of SB1, that some people need assistance at the polls because of the language barrier. And people are nervous about, what does that mean? What can I do? What can I not do? Including, right, that also made some folks nervous who serve as judges, as election judges who work at the precincts, where they were trying to make certain criminal acts based on what you do. I mean, who says that what you did? That's dependent on a poll watcher who may say they thought you did this, you thought you did that as election judge, and turn you in. So it really just creates a lot of chaos. And it really deters people from becoming engaged in the political process. Like, I personally knew people who were election judges prior to SB1 who decided, I'm not going to be an election judge. I don't understand this new law, and I don't want to take the chance of, doing anything that may compromise my way of life because I get charged with some kind of penalty or criminal penalty because of something someone said. So not only does the law suppress voters, but it also, I think, is a way of trying to have people disengage from the process, primarily Black folks and people of color, to disengage from this election process because we're not quite sure what it means for me to be a poll worker. So that's also an issue for us as well, and that's something that we are certainly pushing back against, right? Because these supposed safeguards are really just becoming fraud. And it's creating an issue for people to vote in the state of Texas.
Wow, that is just, again, in a democracy, more evidence that there is a war on democracy by the forces of neo-fascism, because there is a commitment, apparently, in this country to limit who can vote. I just maintain there's a movement, and we see it in Alabama. I'd like to get your commentary on what's happening in Alabama, where the Alabama legislature has literally done what is unprecedented. I'm hearing Martin King right now on August 28th, 1963, Alabama, whose governor's lips are dripping with the words of interposition and nullification. Well, look at the Alabama legislature literally trying to nullify the Supreme Court, declaring that your gerrymandering, for all intents and purposes, is racist. Now, hold on, Pastor Ayers. First of all, it's this Supreme Court.
Right.
You know it's got to be bad if this Supreme Court had the nerve to say, all right, Alabama, now, there's racism, and then there is Alabama racism. Talk to us about the racist gerrymandering that the Alabama legislature produced and the apparent movement going on, because Alabama ain't by itself. Gerrymandering is not limited to Alabama. Let's say that and be clear. It's just that Alabama has just been so blatant in their pushback against the Supreme Court. Talk to us about what's going on and how gerrymandering is also a voter suppression tactic being employed in this movement across the country, a neo-fascist, a Christo-neo-fascist movement, ensuring that some folk don't get to participate in the political process.
Yeah, so it's not like the gerrymandering is just another political tool, right, that is used to ensure, again, to maintain power. This is really what this really is about. It is about maintaining power at all costs. And if that means we have to redraw these lines 20 times, that's what we're going to do. If it means we have to resist the Supreme Court's decision, we'll do that. And to your point, For Republicans, this is their court, right? This is their court for all intents and purposes, for them then to push back against. And it'll be interesting how that plays out, right? How this power struggle and dynamic is going to play out, because they're still pushing back against that. So I think we need to really look at how serious this is. Like, this is really, like, we are at war. I don't really want to use violent language, but that's really what's going on. It's survival. They're looking to see how they're going to survive this moment with all these demographic shifts. The nation is changing. And so it's working hand in hand. We're going to suppress your vote, and we're going to draw the line. So not only if you do vote, you're going to have to end up voting for a white district. You won't have a black district to vote for. So even if you get the rights, we're able to restore those rights. Well, then we're going to make sure you're not going to be voting in all black districts.
Yeah.
They're just using all the tools in the political toolbox to maintain their power and control. And we have to recognize that and think about what are some of the ways in which we strategize to counter that. And so, yeah, I'm not surprised. Like you said, it's happening in many states, but we got to be clear that the Deep South is still a very particular place, right? And we see it every day. And so I think we have to remain vigilant. We have to really pay attention to what is going on, how we interpret that, and what moves do we make next. And I think sometimes that's for us to be very vocal, to have a narrative that we tell, to talk about what is wrong, to raise the issue so we're not, blindsided. People understand what's happening. But I also think somewhere we have to have some underground work going on. What are we really going to do to plan, to strategize, so that we can be able to turn the corner, so we can really make sure that we can block the gerrymandering and that we can really restore these rights. And so part of that, right, is there needs to be a new plea clearance system. I think that has to be revisited as well, in terms of what it means to pre-clear these states who are known to be racist in their voting laws, as well as the gerrymandering that they continuously do unapologetically and very publicly. They have no shame about that. And so I think we just have to make sure that we stay on top of that and just understand why it's happening. It's not just because they want to just sit in office. It's so they can maintain power and control resources, which then in turn make sure they can maintain their way of life. Yeah. In their future, right? They're thinking about their grandchildren, their legacy, which we need to be thinking about just as well. And how do we do that? But it's about fear too, right? A lot of this is just rooted in fear that the good old American way, what it means to be white in this country, is shifting and changing, and it's going to be a different day. And they are resisting that at every turn.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Pastor Ayers. You'll be testifying this week in San Antonio. We, of course, will be praying for you. Is there anything else we can do? What's the call to action at this point so we can support your efforts, but also fight back against these voter suppression efforts?
Yes, I think both in Texas and across the country, I think we have to have very robust civic engagement programs, right? Not just our voter engagement with registration, education, turnout, checking people's voter status to make sure they haven't been kicked off the rolls, because that happens. We also, I think, have to make sure we're very vigilant to train poll monitors, those who can stand outside, see what's going on. They can call in issues that may be happening. If someone is being harassed, intimidated, we track that, we collect that data, and we create really like a nationwide way that we collect all of this, so we can have a real narrative about what is happening in all these Republican-controlled states that have voter suppression laws. I think we have to really continue to push for us to be poll workers, to be election judges, to be clerks, so we are in the system and we're seeing what's going on, and that we can do what we can from the inside, right? I think that's something we can do. And I just think we have to continue to call out the lies and hypocrisy that keeps going on, that there's some way we got to deal with voter fraud in this country. Like, we have to continue to counter that narrative as much as we can, and make sure we're dispelling these false narratives. And then, of course, I think we have to further underscore the importance of voting, because state secretaries, as we have seen in Arizona and other places, when trying to overturn elections, right? So we also have to make sure we're voting to make sure we have the right people in place at different levels of government who are connected to, the voting election process. Yes, I think those are the main things. And of course, the courts is another pathway. I think we have to approach this from multiple fronts, and do it in a more collective fashion, where it's not one or two, but it's a real collective, where we have a real collective of people power around the country, particularly in those targeted states that we know we're going to have issues with, that we have a plan on the front end going into election season. We know 2024 is going to be a huge election year. So we should go into 24 kind of knowing what is it that we're going to ask people in various places to do collectively at the same time. So we're building up this main database and this main program or initiative that can be dropped down in any city, any state, that we're doing the same thing, making people don't get disengaged, but let's encourage people to stay engaged, because those voter suppression, let's be real, it can make you say, I'm done, I'm just going to stay at home, because it seems so much to overcome. But we can't do that. We have to, in fact, it should embolden us to say, no, we're gonna double down, right? We're gonna be more 10 toes down on this and not step away from that. So for me, I think that's what we have to do. It's not disengage, it's to engage even more and pull more people in the process, but making sure we're all educated on the process and we understand what we're doing and why we're doing and why this is so critical, because this is a matter of life and death in our future. If we are not in control of the resources and we're not in control of policies that are made and policies that become law.
Pastor Danielle Ayers, thank you so much for that call to action. Rainbow Push family, you've gotten that word. We've got to do it. Thank you so much, Pastor Ayers. Let me simply close with these words. Reverend Jackson, our beloved founder, once clapped back to a person who dared to ask him, critique him about his work and what he was doing. He said, I'm not a jelly maker, I'm a tree shaker. I love that, because Reverend Jackson recognized it takes both tree shakers and jelly makers in order to bring about the jam of democracy that we are trying to create. We need jelly makers. And so I salute those on the front lines picketing against corporate greed, waging war against economic justice in this country. Rainbow Push family, we ought to be out there with them. When you see striking workers, stand with them. 10 toes down, to use the language of Pastor Ayers. Stand with them. Do what you can to go out to the front lines, bring them water, bring them food, but always show up with striking workers, because listen, it's them today. It may well be you tomorrow. As we fight for economic justice, we are waging war against a new brand of apartheid in this country. There's economic apartheid in that the money keeps going up and never trickling down, but there's also political apartheid. And so when Pastor Ayers is going to stand and testify against voter suppression laws in Texas and in the Deep South, what is she doing? She's recognizing that we need some tree shakers who are taking a stand against not just economic apartheid, but political apartheid, because that is what this amounts to. Some people don't want some people to vote. That is political apartheid, 21st century style. And so we need tree shakers and we need jelly makers. I see jelly makers. I'm remixing you now, Reverend Jackson, as those who are organizing on the ground to build what we need in order to have a true democracy of liberty and justice for all. So it takes the organizers, but it also takes the agitators, the organizers who are building, the agitators who are shaking what is wrong in this country. And so let's, in the name of that great civil rights legend, Jesse Louis Jackson Sr., engage in tree shaking and jelly making, and one ain't gotta hate on the other. Listen, I want to invite all of you to make sure you show up in Atlanta. It's the place to be for our Atlanta conference. It's a conference where we are focusing on what? Opportunity. We're dealing with fighting voter suppression. We're dealing with economic justice. And so make sure that you are in Atlanta. It's the place to be. You'll see the info on the screen. Don't miss out on the conference Fighting for Opportunity, because what are we going to do? We're going to do some tree shaking and some jelly making. God bless you, Rainbow Push family.
Dr. Kim, I went to jail with a group of 7 students, July 17, 1960, almost 60 years ago. We never stopped moving. I lost a few jail cells and death. We never stopped moving. I thought it was time to write some of it down so the older generation can learn how we did what we did and how global it was speaking about Mandela in South Africa, India, Qatar, Gandhi in India, here at home. This book tells the story, so please get it, to give it to your friends. Read it, let's argue about it, let's discuss it.
Yeah, so the book is Keeping Hope Alive, Sermons and Speeches of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. It's quite a good collection. You know, we've got sermons and speeches from around the globe because you have made such a global impact, not just here in the US, but around the world.
We are sanctuary. We are a sanctuary.
When I think of Rainbow Push, I think of two words: social justice.
Education advocacy.
Political empowerment.
Freedom and equality.
Corporate partnership.
Stop the violence. Save the children.
Don't get it. Shut it down. If we don't get it, shut it down.
Political change.
Inclusion, evolution.
Progress, justice.
Jesse Jackson.
Keep hope. Keep hope alive. Alive. Keep hope. Keep hope alive. Alive.
We want to be bridges to end these cultural gaps.
We're going forward. By hope. Not backwards. By fear.